So I really want to welcome Miss Maggie Chui, who you're going to hear quite a bit about. Hi, Maggie. How are you?
Good. Hi to everyone watching. Thank you so much for that incredible introduction, Mai. That was so generous of you. I'm very excited to have this part with you.
Yes. I mean, you know what? I have a lot of things to say, but I feel that our conversation can't really share a lot more. And for those of you guys that don't know, I know sometimes people are humble and don't say everything about themselves. So I will ask you about your journey, but I want to do a quick introduction, an official introduction of your bio for those that are listening and have never met or heard of Maggie. So Maggie is the founder and COO of Asian Hustle Network, which is an online community of over 68,000 members that started in November 2019 and is aimed at empowering and uplifting Asian entrepreneurs and allies globally. And their mission is to really bring Asian entrepreneurial and professional community together to provide that inclusive platform for people to collaborate, support, and learn from one another, like I am doing right now. She has been featured on LA Times, Voyage LA, Next Shark, and China Global TV Network. And she envisions the future where Asians can be more open with sharing their stories, amplifying their voices, and working to ensure that we all succeed. And that what's bring us here today, right? So Maggie, really tell me about this journey because I mean, a community of 68,000 people doesn't just appear like that overnight, right? I'm sure there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, but let us backtrack a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about your story. What really got you excited and empowered to even start this type of community? Because it takes a lot of work. So please do share with us a little bit about yourself and your journey here.
Yeah, thanks so much for that handoff, Mai. So I can backtrack a little bit from, when I was born and raised. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And my parents are from Hong Kong. So they came from Hong Kong. They immigrated here to the Bay Area, and that's where they met my mom and dad. And they had myself and my two older sisters. And so I come from a very non-entrepreneurial background. So my dad worked at a printing company for 40 years straight. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My sisters, they went to college, they graduated, they got a well-paying job. And I also, did the same thing. I, went to college, I graduated, and I also, went into the 9 to 5 corporate world. And so I graduated with a major in finance, business administration. And I was working at a couple of different, cubicle jobs, and the first couple ones were in local government, and then I transitioned into tech. And so I always knew that I wanted to do something more. I always knew that, maybe this isn't the right thing that I wanted to do. I did like being in finance, but at the same time, I just wanted to feel more fulfillment in my life. And I met Brian about 3 years ago, a little bit over 3 years ago. And Brian, he also comes from a very non-entrepreneurial family as well. However, he reads a lot of books, and he kind of like dawned on this journey for me where like you have to start reading books about like entrepreneurs and everything like that. And this was all very new to me. And so Brian was actually in real estate, and we got together. He's, my boyfriend. And so we figured like we should start, a business that's related to real estate because that was the field that he was in. And so I was also very into interior design. And so we started a staging company together. So we started furnishing houses that Brian would flip. And we did that for a little bit. And that was like my gateway to entrepreneurship. That was the first time that I was like introduced to entrepreneurship, just like managing inventory and like managing furniture, looking at into warehouses where we could store the furniture, and just like renting budget trucks for us to like drive over to those houses and furnish it ourselves. And I really loved it. Like I loved the excitement of it. I loved being able to just like work for ourselves. We did that for a couple of years, and we, in the middle of it, we were going to a lot of real estate conferences. We were going to a lot of meetups for realtors and real estate agents. And we will always see the same thing over and over again because there would always be a panel of speakers, but none of them were of Asian descent. And we kept seeing this over and over again. We knew that this was, something that was very common.
Yeah.
And if you look at, like, it's not even real estate, it's like every other industry as well. Asians are often underrepresented. And why is that, right? If we take a look at like community-based events, Asians are often the lowest in attendance. And I think that goes back to our generational limiting beliefs because our parents told us, like, don't create any chaos, just keep your head down and work hard. Don't like try to make any change, just listen to your supervisor and just like nod and say yes. And that's always the perception that we had, right? A lot of our Asian parents had told us to do that. And I think that's also why, like, in the corporate world, we feel so inhibited to, or we feel like we can't speak up. And that also causes us to think like we're not good enough, we can't succeed in this world. And with that, we went back home. We started looking up online communities for Asian professionals and Asian entrepreneurs, but we couldn't find any. And if there were any, they were often very exclusive. You would have to like exit a tech company valued at like $10 billion or something like that, And we just thought like it kind of defeated the purpose because we wanted to bring the whole community together. And I think that, aspiring entrepreneurs really are our future. If we can't create a community for aspiring entrepreneurs to, feel a part of, then how are we going to nurture them for them to become seasoned entrepreneurs? And then it's kind of like a circle of life where, after they become seasoned entrepreneurs, they can then, mentor, aspiring entrepreneurs afterwards. So we looked online and we realized that we were actually in a lot of Facebook groups. And it kind of dawned on us, like, there is such a thing as Facebook groups. Like, why don't we just create one? And we didn't think anything of it. Like, we knew that it was a good idea, but we were like, okay, it's just going to be our friends, it's just going to be like at most 1,500 people, because I had 500 people on my Facebook friends list and Brian had like 1,000. So we're like, it's just going to be our friends or circle of friends, like no big deal, right? Like, no one's going to see this anyway, so let's just do it.
That's how a lot of them start out, right?
Exactly. Like, no one's going to see it, whatever. And we started just like, putting our introduction in there and saying like, hey, like, this is my story and, a little bit about myself, my entrepreneurial journey. My parents immigrated from somewhere in Asia to the United States. But it's not only United States, but, we're open to the whole world, but a majority of the people in AHN are in the US. And so they started talking about how their parents immigrated here, the types of values and habits that were instilled in their parents that were passed down to them. I think a lot of people resonated with the word hustle because they saw that their parents hustled really hard to provide them with the future that, they have right now. And people started seeing that and started doing that themselves too, because they wanted to share about their story and their parents' story. And we started, just saying welcome to AHN to all of these people and like addressing them by their first name because we felt it was just appropriate to do so. I mean, these people are being super vulnerable, sharing their story. And that takes a lot of courage to do, and it's especially in a group of people that you've never even met or you don't even know them, right? And so after, these people started sharing their stories, they invited their friends and their friends started inviting their friends. And it kind of became like this snowball effect. And we hit the first 1,000 people in 3 days of creating the group. And afterwards, it just kind of got bigger and bigger. And now we're at 68,000 members in a little bit over a year. So we just passed our 1-year anniversary on November 8th.
Wow, congratulations. I know as I was sharing how what really impresses me is that it's just also in such a matter of such a short period of time, right? You mentioned, I mean, I've been on Facebook for a long time. I've been involved in a lot of different Facebook groups, and you don't really think much about it because there's just so many of these groups. There's some of them are a few hundred, some are a few thousand, and some of them are not very active either as well. But that's amazing how you grew something so organically just on that kind of like with that smaller scale, that local smaller scale, but then something resonated and it just kind of blew up from there. And I'm sure you have now quite a lot of ups and downs and, learning lessons from that. So let's talk about like building this community, and as it grows bigger, I feel like when something is smaller, you have that handle on things, right? And when things are just starting to escalate and just really grow, it has a, it's like a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of good things that come out of it, but there, it can easily become a place that anybody can just do anything, and there's just so much noise that can comes in there. So can you now then share some of your experiences on really, I guess, growing this community in a way that encourages everyone to really engage with one another, but also to stay positive, and perhaps share some of the things that you felt that you guys have done very well, and as well as some challenges that you have, because I think that a lot of us are involved in a lot of different communities, and we've seen great communities, and we've also seen groups that are not kind of like growing, and and I'm sure there's a reason why for that. So I'm curious from your own experience.
Yeah, yeah, I love that question. Yeah, there's so many Facebook groups, and especially after COVID happened, we saw more and more Facebook groups directed towards the Asian community because everyone just wanted to bring the Asian community together. And so the thing with us is like we started our group right before COVID happened in November of 2019. So
Yeah.
we had no idea of like the changes that would happen. Obviously, it did, you know, change a lot of the things that happened in the group. But I think the main reason why we stayed so, you know, engaged and why the engagement rate for AHN was always so good was because of the culture that we put into the group. And so, you know, the couple of things that we really wanted to, you know, nurture the culture with was we wanted it to be a safe space. You know, like I said, sharing your story can be very vulnerable, right? And we wanted people to feel like it was safe for them to share their story, and just always, you know, making sure that everyone was being respectful. We wanted to make sure the rules were very, very clear. Like, you have to be respectful. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, like, please don't say it at all. And there are going to be like some bad apples that just, you know, go inside the group and just ramble on and, you know, say some really mean stuff. And that's where we come in, like our moderating team. You know, I can talk about our moderating team in a little bit, like how we chose those members. But our moderating team is like the key to why this group is so successful, because they're always there moderating all of the posts, and they're always there making sure that everyone's being respectful. And we get keyword alerts, like if like a bad word, someone
Mhm.
posts a bad word, we get keyword alerts to like notify us, like, oh, what did that person say that indicated, you know, there was a keyword alert. And if a person is being disrespectful, we, you know, we give them like a little nudge, like, hey, this is a warning, like, please, you know, remember to be respectful. And we also want to make sure that there's like a family culture as well. So we always address our community by like the AHN family, and
Mhm.
not to like make it sound like a cult, because that's what we got one time. We were saying like, oh, I heard AHN is a cult. And I was like, where did you get that from? We just like, honestly, like, we just wanted people to feel like they had a family, because
Yeah.
we're all Asian at the end of the day, right? Like, it doesn't matter if like I'm Chinese or like the other person's Viet or the other person's Korean. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're all Asian, and we all are people of color trying to excel in this world, and we're all just trying to succeed, you know? And I think that Brian and I always talk about it, where we say, we have this like limiting belief that like one ethnicity is better than the other, because we are one generation apart from our parents who were in times of war. So like literally it's us, like it's actually been like pretty recent where like our grandparents were probably fighting with each other. So I think that's why, you know, they
Mhm.
have this like idea instilled in them, like, you know, just stick with your own ethnicity. But our generation is so different now, you know, like we have to come together. We're one big family, and we're one big community. I think another thing is also like we have this give first before taking um, rule in our group. So if, let's say, you know, someone is just like promoting their product, we have to make sure that that person is supporting their peers, you know, before, you know, they want people to like support them. So it has to be like a two-way street. Like if you can provide like a story, your story, that's already very inspirational to someone. That's already helping someone. So if you can provide a story rather than just like leaving your link to your website, like, hey, like, you know, I have this deal going on, you
Yeah.
know, those are like very self-promotional to us. So we always ask someone like, hey, give first before taking. Like if you can provide your story, that's already extremely helpful. And then, you know, I think the last one is like having a very crystal clear mission and making sure everyone knows like what we're about. AHN is about empowering and uplifting Asian entrepreneurs. Ma, you brought up a really great point about like when we were small, like it's easier to manage, right? It was definitely easier to manage when we were small. Like 1,000 people, like we could just moderate the posts very easily. Like it was super easy. But now that we're at 68,000 members, we do get just like bots every now and then. And it's very hard to attract too, because a couple things that we look for when people are joining our group, let's say if they created a Facebook account like 2 hours ago and their profile says like they're the Prince of Persia or Prince of Egypt or something, obviously it doesn't look real, right? And we want to prevent those bots from coming into our group and like spamming the page. So there are things that we have to look out for as we get bigger and bigger. It's just you know, the pains of growing.
That's
We
right.
all have to deal with growing pains. But I think that the reason why we are still so active and our engagement rate is so high and the quality of the posts are so high is because our moderating team always makes sure that, you know, if let's say a post doesn't have the things that we're looking for, if they're just trying to self-promote, we always reach back out to them and say like, hey, I think this is how you can make your posts even better. I think that you have
Mhm.
a lot to offer if you can like provide more of your story. That would be wonderful. And they always, you know, they sometimes they'll fix it up and then they'll repost it. They get like hundreds of likes, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I'm so glad you helped me, you know, redo my post or like gave me advice on like how I can make my post better. And then in return, that helps them because people are like, oh my God, I connect with this person so much. Like, I want to support them and I want to check out their product because people are more easily inclined to support a business owner if they can connect with that person due to their story. If they can connect with that person due to like what is their why, what is their purpose, as opposed to like if you just gave me a product and I don't know anything about it, like I'm less inclined to purchase that product. But if I know your
Mhm.
story, then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with this person, like I love their product and the reason why they started their company, like I want to support this person. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. You know what, Maggie, that sharing in itself is already a lesson on marketing, branding,
Yeah.
communications. You know, that's amazing how you put that all into it because I agree with you. I think with the day and age of social media, we're always bombarded with so many different posts, so many different
Right,
sharing,
right, right.
and the fact that your community set it up so that it's not just about sorry your post is denied, but it's more about, well, here is something that you can do about it and it can help you. And then once they see the return on investing a little bit more time in sharing the stories and just making that extra effort to really think about what they're putting out there, it comes back tenfold, right? That's amazing. I know what you mean. Sometimes it takes time though, right? Actually,
It
it
does.
takes time to put together a thought out sharing, right?
Right.
And we're used to just something so quick, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
also takes time to even be able to moderate and all of that. So in the beginning, was everyone just kind of volunteering their time? You guys were volunteering their time because I can just imagine when you start a group, it's not like you're being paid to do that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we had when we first started the group, you know, a lot of people saw the momentum
Mm,
and we had a lot of people asking us like, "Oh, how can I be a moderator? Like I'd love to be a moderator." But you can tell the difference between like someone who's actually really passionate about our mission. You know, some people
mm,
are just like extremely passionate. They love our mission and they're like, "I really want to help AHN and be a moderator and support in any way." And like I'm extremely grateful for, you know, the people who have stepped forward and expressed that they were passionate about our mission, because some of them are now, you know, part of our AHN team. And
mm,
then On the other side, you do get some people who are like, they will ask to be a moderator, but you can tell that they have like an ulterior motive. And
Mm,
so there was this one time where Brian and I received an email, like the email was extremely long, and they listed out all their qualifications and like the businesses that they started. And they said, in return, I would love to, I would love to get a seat on the moderating team. But I think there was just like something that we knew, like, they wanted it for their own personal benefits, and so that
mm,
they could like build their product in front of, the so many members that we had. Because if you're a moderator, you don't need to get your post approved. You can just post and it goes on the page. And so, that's another thing. I think a lot of other Facebook groups, they don't approve the post because it takes too much time. But we
mm,
approve every single post. So as soon as you post something, like we have to review it before it either gets denied or approved.
mhm.
Um, yeah,
Or it takes
so
them too long to even review it. You guys review it. You actually do it quick. I've
yeah,
been in groups where you know that you meet other criterias, but it takes a
mhm,
long time, and by the time it gets
yeah,
approved, sometimes it's a little delay. And then,
right,
so I don't, I understand taking the time, like you said, it takes a lot of time to just moderate
mhm,
and review and just to make sure everything's
right,
abide, but to do it on a timely matter too,
yeah.
right? And,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why, like we did have like a lot of volunteers just, helping us with the AHN initiatives, and they weren't getting paid, like this was just a volunteer basis. We have since then grown our team to over 20 people, and some of them are paid now, and we are hoping to continue growing and expanding so that we can eventually pay our whole team and become an actual corporation, so that we can continue to fulfill our role and get to our mission.
that's amazing. You you brought up a good point there, and I wanted to share something. Is that so? Often people, uh, you know, we we read a lot of these books where it's asking us to really reach inside ourselves and ask what our purpose is, what is that mission we're called for. And then I found that myself for a long time, I was kind of always stuck where I'm thinking, what am I doing right now to make money? My business or my job? Is it really my purpose? And then for a while, I wanted to change everything completely because I said, maybe I need to do something that I love and make money from. But what I realized is that you can have your job, you can have your business, you can have your career. And yes, it's important to make the income to provide for your family and for yourself, but it doesn't always have to be what you kind of is your purpose. So if that's the
Right.
case, you can always find opportunity to volunteer and serve and do things that are of your purpose. But then there are those that are lucky enough to be able to find their purpose, follow their passion, and generate money from that. And I feel that you and Briar are on that path, which is so exciting to see because there's nothing better than to be able to follow your heart and
Mhm.
to be able to create income and wealth from that so that you can give back more, right? I used to have that limiting beliefs. I used to
Yeah.
think that whatever you do as serving should
Yeah.
be separate.
Mhm.
And when you mix it with generating income,
Mhm.
but then I realized that was just my limiting money beliefs. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you said, we grew up with a lot of different limiting beliefs, and now I realize that I mean, it's not one is better than another. It's just what happens to your life and how much time you spend really
Mhm.
searching for that purpose, right?
Yeah.
So, since you guys are on that path, share with me how do others who wants to go on the same journey that you are to find a passion, find a purpose, and then to marry the opportunity to create income and or financial freedom from that as well too. What
Yeah.
does that look like?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm so glad you asked that. On that note, I'm not sure if you know but I recently quit my 9 to 5 job
Yes,
3 weeks
do.
ago. Okay. Yeah, I think Brian posted it in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, and so this question is so relevant because like I'm going through the same thing right now, you know, and I was working in tech, in finance tech, and so you know I was doing finance at a tech company, but I would say that, you know, for people who are battling between like, do I pursue something that actually generates me income, but like, what if I'm not happy with it? I just want to focus on my passion project, but it's not generating income yet. I would say like my advice would be like if you can hold on to your 9 to 5 until you generate enough income that would that comes from your side hustle, and it would match what you would currently make at your 9 to 5. That would be the best way to go. You know,
Mhm.
I would say like that's the safest way to go, and that's if you can hold out until then, right? Um, right now, like I'm not generating as much as I would at my 9 to 5 that I had before, but I felt that I wanted to spend my time towards the goal that we have for AHN. And so I felt that my time was being absorbed with my 9 to 5. And I felt that if I wanted AHN to move forward, if I wanted to spend more time on AHN, then I had to give something up. But I would say, you know, my advice is not for you to like just make the jump without having a solid backup plan. Make
Mhm.
a plan first, and you know if you're going to have a side hustle, work on that every single day. At least do something like if it's like 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, just work on it every single day to move you forward, and then see if you can replace your income with your side hustle, or at least get almost to that point where you can, you know, leave your 9 to 5. There are some people who are lucky and blessed enough to be happy at their 9 to 5. I know a lot of people who
Mhm.
are, you know, are in love with what they do at their 9 to 5, but they also have a side hustle and they're doing their passion project on the side. And if that's you, like definitely stay at your 9 to 5. You know, if you love being at your 9 to 5, then you know definitely stay there. But there are some people who just can't take it anymore. You know, they feel like
You're trapped.
it's just something in life. They feel trapped, right? I would say just be true to yourself. You know, I would say if you do feel like that, make sure that you have a plan, and it all goes back to the plan. And don't leave just because you know you hate your job. Leave leave because you have a plan and you know which direction that you want to take it. I
Mhm.
would say the next most important thing is like, are you being fulfilled at your 9 to 5? Like, do you feel like you feel fulfilled working at your corporate job? And if not, you know, make a plan for you to, you know, fulfill your role in your passion project and take the next steps to get there. Work on it every single day. I think the third most important thing is like make sure you have support, because the first couple of months may be really rough and you might not get, you know, the support that you want from people who are outside your friends and family. So make sure that you have friends and family that are able to support you in like dire times. And I know there's like so many businesses out there that are, you know, that are struggling right now due to COVID. I think the
Mhm.
next most important thing is finding a community. And
Mhm.
that's where, you know, AHN is also available to support as well, because there's just so many businesses struggling during COVID that they're posting about their business in AHN. And a lot of them are like finding a lot of help and support through there as well. So,
Sure.
I mean, yeah, back to your question, Mai, like if you're like balancing between the two, I would just say, you know, just be true to who you are, know what you're feeling inside, but make sure you do have a backup plan and make sure that you have friends and family to support you throughout the way.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you know, what you pointed out there is really key, is that sometimes when you think that, you know, this is not what you're meant to do, and you've been feeling that way, and it's easy for you to have that knee-jerk reaction and just one day
Yeah,
say, that's it, I'm done, I'm
yeah,
out of here.
yeah.
Right? But I mean, like, having a plan is really so key. And honestly, looking back, I am now older than when I was in my 20s. I actually feel that back then, the funny thing is, looking back then, I now know what I know. I would tell myself the same thing. And back then, I guess for me, I've been a serial entrepreneur for like over almost 15 years now. And I remember working in my corporate job for like 2 years and feeling like I need a way out. And the truth was, I didn't have that plan, but I had youth and I had a mommy who supports me and allowed me to stay at home to basically live off of her so that I can go out and try something that was basically 100% commission. When you're like trying something as you're an entrepreneur, you're just basically real, whatever you can bake, right? There's no security in that sense. There's that check that comes in every 2 weeks or so, right? But there is that security in a sense where you feel you have control. You have that control of the output that you want to put out. But I do agree with you that it's important to have that plan. So if you are able to then, but a plan is not perfect. You're gonna have to pivot and you're gonna have to realize that things happen and you have to be open to change and just being open to things that are thrown at you because you never experienced it before, right? We're always learning. But what you said is just putting in that extra 30 minutes a day or an hour, or whatever it is. And you mentioned earlier that Brian encouraged you to just read books and just really do a lot of personal development, which I think is really key. I find that when you're on a journey, really pursuing your passion or trying something that's different than the norm, you really have to have that strong mindset. And you don't just kind of wake up with that. It takes years of training and it takes years of just studying, learning, and listening to others who have been able to follow the path that you want to have, right? Because when you hear their stories, you realize they too didn't just wake up one day and said, wow, this is my purpose, my passion. I'm making millions from this, like it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of grinding, but to stay in the game and to be able to overcome a lot of different challenges, you really just have to read some books, listen to some, empowering words. And I know that you guys are pretty big on that right now as well too, right? You're constantly
Definitely. Yeah, Brian is on another level. Like I give a lot of props to him for kind of nurturing my mindset and my mentality to think in a different way. Because even if I did, feel like I wanted to do something more, there was also that part of me that was like, oh, am I good enough? Like, am I able to do something like that? I'm just one person, I don't know. And so there were those moments where I was like, I didn't know if I was able to do something so big. But I think that, Brian has really changed my mindset and he's like given me so many ideas and like just reinforced me to like continue reading, continue like writing. So what we do on a daily basis every morning is like we read and write. And so we'll spend like 30 minutes writing. We'll write like 5 things we're grateful for, 5 goals that we have, and then we'll just rewrite. And then we'll spend a little bit of time reading. So I think that like sets the foundation and the structure of our day so that we know like what we want to achieve. And we wake up every morning knowing what we're grateful for, because I feel like that's so important. We do have to, realize like what we have and that we're in a much better space, or we're in a much better place than a lot of other people, and we have to keep remembering that, right? At the same time, like we have to be mindful of that and continue to give as much as we can. And so that really helps us like frame our day really well. And it just has really made myself grow in the last couple of years, just reading all these books, reading about how these entrepreneurs became so successful. And at the end of the day, they're just like people like any of us, like you and I are. But the way that they think, their mentality is like so much different. It's obviously like you can see that their mindset has changed from when they were younger until now. But if we can adopt that same mindset, like we're as much capable as they are to succeed on our goals.
Yes, definitely. That's what I really that's what I've learned. The more people I read and more success stories I read, is that they always tell us that, you know, the person that gets in our own way is really us. We are always the one in our own way, because they too were the same, and they too felt like they didn't, they weren't enough, but they got out of their way. And so I think it's definitely harder. It's easier. So it's easier said than done, and it takes constant, constant, working at that. But having a community to support that, having a partner, your circle of influence that is really into that is key, because doing it alone is really tough. Doing it alone is not easy, and it's not smart either, because you can learn from other people who are doing it already, right? So I normally set aside about 30 minutes for these heart-to-heart conversations, but I'm so into so much of the things that you share. It's already like 45 minutes into our conversations. I want to respect the time of everybody. I know it is a Friday as well too, right? But we don't have anywhere to go. But I want to respect your time. I want to respect everyone's time. And so I just wanted to kind of say a few words before I wrap it up, is that I really do love the community. And like you said, it helps you be a part of a community that is so empowering and so engaging. And so for all of my friends who are watching this, if you haven't heard about Asian Hustle Network, then you can search them on Facebook and reach them out. They also have a website as well, asianhustlenetwork.com, correct? And they also have a podcast as well that you can kind of get involved. But what's more important is, once you join the community, don't be afraid to share your story. Say hello, share your story. I find those stories are really what encourage me to share my story, because I find it could be intimidating to share to a group of so many strangers. So, and so before I end the session, do you have any last words you want to share with everyone watching, or anything that you want to say, Maggie?
Yeah, I would say, a couple of things. I would say we definitely can't do it alone. Like, I feel like we all need support or a community to help us strive forward. I mean, same thing with like this heart to heart that I'm having with Mai right now. Like, I am so blessed to be able to, connect with your network, Mai, and have your audience see, this heart to heart and hear my story. And at the same time, just having you post in AHN, like, it's so refreshing to see you post inside the group as well. I mean, we're already collaborating here. And so if there's anything that, you're trying to accomplish in your life, any goals that you have, like, we definitely can't do it alone. We need a community to help support us along the way. And I would say, like, if you're going to be on the Facebook group, please feel free to share your introduction. We'd love to hear from you. If you're afraid to share your introduction, please feel free to message me. I can definitely, help you in any way that I can, and provide any feedback or advice on how you can craft your message better or craft your introduction better. Like, I'm always here to help and support in any way I can. And I think the last thing I would say, feel free to check out our website. We have a ton of amazing stories on there. If you go onto asianhustlenetwork.com and click on stories, we post stories about community members inside the group, our partners of AHN. They have amazing stories about, what their values are, what their product is, what their company is all about. And yeah, it's just really refreshing to see all of these stories. It would be amazing if you guys can check it out as well.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully, once COVID is over, I know you guys do live events. So there will be some live events as well for us all to be able to connect in person together.
Yes, hopefully we'll be in Toronto. I hope that'll be one of our first ones in Toronto, because we haven't done one in Canada yet. So
yes,
we'll be there.
Love to have you guys up here, as I don't know if you guys know, but you can see by her photo, and Maggie's from California, and I want to be in California right now since it's winter up here. But hopefully, when it's nice and it's summer, that you'll come up here as well too. So Maggie, once again, I just want to say thank you so much for being on this heart to heart. I definitely feel that you have shared so much that I've personally learned from, and I hope everyone as well have found it to be very beneficial and heartwarming as well too. So once again, thank you for joining me. And so please make sure, if you haven't yet, you can come by to The Mindful Hustler Facebook page. That's my own public page where I normally post all of these weekly lives where I be interviewing different individuals. They can be some local entrepreneurs, they can be a longtime friend of mine, where we're just having heart to heart conversations, sharing our own personal experiences and our own stories. So I look forward to seeing everyone the next time. Bye.